Arrowhead General Insurance Agency and Zurich have teamed up to offer ambulance insurance. Find out more at arrowheadgrp.com/ambulance.
Richard Betterley, president of Betterley Risk Consultants, says cyber liability policies have evolved quite a bit in the 10 or so years they have been around, and carriers are doing a good job of providing the coverage that is necessary. In this interview with MyNewMarkets.com associate editor Amy O'Connor, Betterley discusses what some of the current trends are in the cyber liability market and what agents can do to become experts in this class.
The basic coverages are pretty stable right now in terms of what's available, what's covered, and to some extent the limits that are available. But clearly if you want to stack up higher limits, buy higher limits of coverage, for the larger insureds, those are more available. I think that at our panel this afternoon I heard $200 million could be put together. That's not for the small mid-sized market, of course. If they wanted to buy that much limit, I probably would say why. But for the largers, more limits is more easily available. Some additional coverage for intellectual property risk seems to be becoming available, but at very low limits. And that's more for the smaller insureds. The large insureds find it very difficult to buy intellectual property insurance. Patent infringement, copyright, for example. Media liability coverage is being added on more and more to the cyber policies. So those are certainly improving the product. There are more breaches, and some of that is perhaps reporting. The reporting is better, so maybe these breaches were happening and the victims didn't know about it, or if they did, they didn't get public about it. After all, it was embarrassing. Now, the state laws that require the public announcement of a notification that there had been a breach, that's causing a lot more reporting. So maybe the reporting's changed. That's sort of point number one. And point number two is the whole industry of responding to a breach has just grown exponentially. People that want to be involved for money in order to help respond to breaches is kind of promoting awareness. But on the flip side of that, the insurance companies are, I think, doing a good job of making those costs more reasonable, which may be stressful for the vendors, but is a useful benefit of the insurance. Interestingly, we think that the cost of the insurance is somewhat coming down, not up, and that's because of the fierce competition amongst I think we cover 31 cyber insurance carriers in our reports, and there are more, but those are we think the 31 most important, and they're pretty competitive to sign up new insureds, but in a prudent sort of way. I think they're doing it. I'm very impressed with the quality and the capability of the underwriters who are in the business now. There are some underwriting teams that are stronger than others, but there's a lot of talent in the industry, and it impresses me tremendously. I think the challenge for them is, how do you understand a risk that you can't go out and look at? And you can look at the application and you can see what the insured says they do, and you can maybe do some testing, but it's a very difficult thing to get your hands on, and it's an annual policy, so you don't know more about the risk until next year when the next application comes along. So that's a real challenge, and we've been trying to promote the idea of what we call active defense. We want the insureds to have offensive capabilities to, for example, shun what they call shunning the attacks on their networks, and we're going to need more and more of that. Well, I think the agents and brokers have a lot of opportunity to write a lot more of this insurance, and that there are so many organizations that are not buying it now that should be buying it, that there's a huge opportunity really for the agents and brokers. The challenges are, how do I know that I'm selling the right product to the proper insured? How do I know what kind of options there are on the policy that they may need, and I better know what they are if I'm an agent or a broker? And probably to make sure that as an agent or a broker, you know that, or understand that a standalone policy is for most insureds the way to go, not an add-on. I think an add-on has value, but probably only for the quite small insureds. I think I'd offer those up. I think probably the other thing I'd want to know is, as an agent or a broker, you're going to get a lot of questions about data security, and you may or may not be capable of answering those. Find out who is and make sure they're available to your clients.